What fact amazes you every time you think about it? We don't know everything there is to know, and one day we will seem primitive in our ways to others. This deserves to be higher. Why? Because I think it, too. My b****s. The fact that I'm alive. Like this clump of cells functions. I don't know how, but it doesn't. It baffles me that tiny cells work together and neurons fire and I function. And that your cells are constantly working, making mini explosions enough to heat you, rebuilding and dying all the time, constantly creating different things you need from the food you eat, including energy, building materials, storage, all without you really knowing. LOL. And let's not forget the many bacteria that live on and in you in symbiosis. I'm glad someone else finds this as fascinating as I do. Like I don't have to think about moving my fingers to type this. My brain just thinks the letters and boom, my fingers hit the keyboard. And don't forget about homeostasis. LOL. The human body is really freaking cool. If you throw a rock into the water, you can be the last person to touch it ever. I like the opposite. Touching the fresh surface of a recently split rock gave knowing I'm the first human to ever see or touch it. What if I pee in the water and my watered down pee touched the rock? Does that count? Your pee has already been peed by untold numbers of creatures, since the Earth's water has been cycling since it first came to be. So, there no stone unpeed on? Yes, the Earth is a sphere of piss. How quickly technology improved during the 20th century. My own grandmother grew up on a farm without electricity. She survived the flu of 1918. It's only 100 years later and I write this on a device no one could have imagined then, but I'm doing it while in a pandemic quarantine. My great-great-grandpa's memoirs include the first time he saw a vehicle that wasn't horse-drawn. He was in his late teens, early 20s, sometime before World War I. It was his town's shiny new fire truck, and nobody believed that complicated machines like that could replace horsepower anywhere but the biggest cities. He lived long enough to watch Apollo 11 land on the moon. Forever. It never started, it was just there. And everything has to expire eventually. When will forever expire? How does it even work? It can't, right? Because forever is forever. But how could it end if it never began? The idea of forever boggles me. The more you think about it, the weirder it becomes. The universe has a start point though. Well, time has. But since without time nothing happens, there is no point in trying to imagine what was before the Big Bang. Because the answer is both simple and mind-blowing. Everything, but also nothing. And all at once, but also never. Netflix was founded before Google. And Nintendo was founded before Ford. The Eiffel Tower is 6 inches shorter in the wintertime. We know that molecules compact in the cold, but the fact that they compact so much that there is a measurable difference in this massive structure is insane. The fact that position and size of the moon and sun are perfectly able to eclipse each other from our perspective. It makes me question reality completely. I read the other day that the moon is approximately 400 times smaller than the sun, but it's also 400 times closer, meaning to the human eye they look the same size. Earth is the only known planet for which this perfect ratio exists. Yes, exactly. It's too perfect. Of the many triggers for existential crisis, this one really gets me. Each one of the Yamato-class battleships' main turrets weighed more than an entire US destroyer. That 52, or the amount of combinations in a deck of cards, is so large, 8 something x 1068, that if you shuffled the deck a good 10 times, the combination would almost certainly have never existed before in history. To give you an idea, the observable universe has only existed about 1014 seconds. Mammoths were still around when the Pyramid of Giza were being built. They really had a good run. I hope we bring them back. We should totally put them in a park, but we should make sure that park is on an island so the mammoths can't escape. Also, that Cleopatra lived closer to when Taco Bell first opened than when the pyramids were being built. Time is something else. The pyramids are as old to the Romans as the Romans are to us. That fact just blows my freaking balls through my nose. Also, the T-Rex existed closer to us than it did to Stegosaurus. I had a serious life-changing moment when I went to the Met. I was in the ancient Roman and Greek section and there was this couch thing. Just a couch. But it was thousands of years old. But the fact that people that long ago sat on the same kind of thing I did just blew my mind. Made me realize that my life was just a tiny blip in the scheme of things. Ended up just staring at that couch for about half an hour, whilst my brain tried to comprehend it all. And this is why I prefer to go to museums on my own. No need to feel like you are holding up the group if you want to have an existential moment. All the planets can fit in the space between Earth and Moon. People don't understand just how big space really is. Even light speed is slow in the grand picture of things. If you're younger than 30, there are and queens who are older than you. The fact that my grandfather was on a boat in the Pacific Ocean heading to Japan when World War II ended and he got to come back home without having to fight. My mother is born 3 years later. If the Emperor of Japan waits even another week to surrender, it's very possible my mother is never conceived and therefore I am never born. That always blows my mind. Not so much amaze, as I would describe it as shocking, but the fact that there are more people in slavery today than there were as a total throughout the entire history of man. The fact that you can dissect the brain, but yet you'll never be able to find a single thought or feeling. If there's 23 people in a room, there's about a 50-50 chance of 2 people sharing the same birthday. Traditionally, barns were often painted red, because red was one of the cheapest colors of paint. Red paint was cheap, because the pigment that created that red color, iron oxide, was very common compared to other pigments. Iron is one of the most common metallic elements on Earth, and the universe at large, because iron is the heaviest element and can be created through normal nuclear fusion and stars. Most dying stars end up with a lot of iron at their core. Thus, in a roundabout way, barns are red because of the inherent physical properties of our universe. The main gun of a A-10 Warthog produces so much recoil it could theoretically propel the plane by itself. If you were to put the gun on a car roof, put the car in neutral, and start firing, you would be breaking the speed limit on the highway within a matter of seconds. And also breaking a lot of other laws too. The fact I'm holding a device that can access all the information in the world, and it fits in my pocket. As a kid, I could never have dreamed that such a thing would be possible. A majority of your weight loss is removed through your breath. The Great Red Spot on Jupiter is roughly twice the size of Earth. Domestication. The fact that many of us live with one or more carnivorous animals who could frick our it up at any moment and eat us if they wanted to, but don't. If you shrunk Earth down to the size of a cue ball, it would be the more smooth than any cue ball ever produced. The physics of suns. If a sun's matter/fusion ratio is just right, you get normal suns. Too much fusion, star goes supernova and literally explodes, destroying everything around it completely and utterly. A little too much matter, sun collapses into a neutron star, made of a material so dense, a teaspoon of it would, hypothetically, weight the same as a city. A little too much matter and fusion, sun collapses into a pulsar, becoming like a supernova in destruction, but only in specific directions, and weighing like a neutron star. Way too much matter, regardless of fusion, and the sun collapses into a black hole, which not even its own radiation can escape, not even light. People are born after 2013. That everything we have came from the elements. Like imagine prehistoric times. Now we got 80-inch TVs as thin as paper. How the hell was that made from trees, grass, air, water, stones and fruit? According to the Drake equation, so yes, but not considered 100% factual as we can't prove, but highly regarded by scientists, there should be between 1,000 to 100 million alien civilizations in the Milky Way galaxy alone. And I think I remember hearing if you tweak just one variable in the equation by the slightest amount, that number can shrink to 0. Whether we are alone or not, either answer is terrifying. That there were empires and kings and battles. Ants can't die when they are falling down somewhere, because they are too small to reach a fatal speed. That the Grumman F-11 Tiger was a plane so fast it shot itself with its own bullet. There's already 27 comments, so you know I'm not going to be seen. But what amazes me is how fast all electronics can work. To think we went from putting pieces of paper into a machine marked with holes that symbolized binary to now coding complex algorithms on computers the size of rooms that decrypt stuff in a matter of minutes is just insane. The fact that there is infinity in every direction. Our smartphones completely exceed above and beyond the technology that was used to go to the moon. And yet here we are in the year 2020, and we still haven't gone on another lunar mission.